Bienvenidos. Hello, everyone. Bonito jueves. Welcome to today's Thursday live stream. In case you guys don't know what jueves means, that means Thursday in Spanish. I have a great guest today. Very, very special topic, which I know for a lot of us is something that we don't think about, right? Until maybe a family member has experienced it, ourselves have experienced it, or somebody that we know, and that is cancer. And cancer treatments in Mexico can be very different than cancer treatments north of the border. And that includes the United States, Canada, and maybe even some other countries that tend to go a very different route or very traditional route with chemotherapy and things like that. So today's topic, I'm sure, is going to be full of questions. I want to preface this with saying that I'm not a doctor by any means. Today is just about information. Karrol is going to be sharing her story, her experience getting treated in Mexico for her cancer. So I just want to go ahead and let you guys know we are not doctors. We are not giving medical advice by any means. But I hope that this inspires you and gives you a lot of really good information. And if you just got diagnosed with cancer or know somebody that has, hopefully maybe you get some ideas today as to how you can navigate that. Before we get started, I'd love to know where you guys are watching from. So go ahead and let me know in the comments where you guys are joining us from, and we're going to get started here in a minute. Dawn, thank you so much for being here from Florida. Good evening. Karrol is in her home in San Miguel de Allende, which, isn't it beautiful, you guys? Like, look at that. It's just such a gorgeous home. And we were just talking about how Denver right now, she's originally from Colorado, how Colorado is getting like a snowstorm, and San Miguel it does tend to get chilly at night, but far, far better and warmer throughout the day than anything in Colorado. So are you guys watching from up north? Are you guys getting hit with some snowstorms? Let me know in the comments. Minnesota. So Christy, yeah, maybe you're getting some snow here in the future if you're not already getting it. Excellent topic. Yes, thank you so much for being here. We're going to cover a lot. Karrol's going to cover a lot. I can't thank her enough for being here and sharing. I think it's really brave, and I hope it really gives somebody who's watching now some information, but maybe in the future, if you're watching this replay, hopefully it gives you some ideas. Columbus, Ohio. Hi, Dan. Thanks for being here. Georgia. Tia, so nice to see you from Jalisco. Getting snowstorm now. Yeah, Minnesota, I would assume. So thank you guys all for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. As I mentioned earlier, my guest today is a special guest. We got connected because she's one of our customers, but more than that, we got connected because she reached out to me and said, hey, I have a story to tell, and I think it might be something interesting for your audience. And I absolutely said yes. Like, it's a very interesting topic, and I think a lot of people could benefit from this. So I want to introduce you, Karrol. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you for having me, Mariana.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and just, where are you from and how did you end up in Mexico?
Well, I'm from Loveland, Colorado. And with the climate, I'll just say, that's happening in the U.S., my husband and I started looking around and saying, maybe we want a plan B. Maybe we want to be somewhere else. And Mexico didn't really occur to me until I was actually watching some other YouTube influencers. I've visited Mexico and I love Mexico. And we almost bought a home once in Puerto Vallarta as a vacation home. But I never really considered living here until I started seeing people on YouTube talking about their moving to Mexico and showing their experiences here. And I found your channel, and I was watching all these different people talk about their experience. And I thought, wow, this is actually a possibility. This is actually something we could do. And so we started looking around for a place to go. And San Miguel de Allende just happened to be the size of the town we were looking for, because we're from an area in Colorado that's very similar in size. And so we loved the old colonial feel of the town. And so we decided to, I mean, we're kind of crazy. We didn't come here and explore first. We actually bought a house online, sight
Wow.
unseen, and had never visited.
Yeah, that's very
That's
adventurous.
It's very nuts, really. I mean, I
Hmm.
would not recommend that to anybody, but for us, it worked out.
Hmm.
I did so much research that when I came here, it wasn't a surprise. It was what I expected. And the home was what we expected because we did a video tour with our realtor. And I know many people come
Okay.
here to rent, and I totally understand that. But we decided, to go the route of just buying right away, especially because real estate prices are going up.
Yeah.
So I have three sons. One lives in Las Vegas, and two live in Colorado, and they also are. My husband and I now have our temporary residency, and my two sons. One just got his, and the other one is getting his in February. And when my son Noah came here with me on this trip, he loves it here. He just was amazed by our house, by the town itself. He's really enjoying the relaxed, laid back, and friendly attitude of San Miguel.
What a lucky guy to have
Mhm.
parents who have a home in San Miguel de Allende.
Yes. And we bought a big enough home. It's not huge, but we bought a big enough home that if friends want to visit us, and family want to visit us, we have the space to accommodate them. So that's really nice.
Okay. So you ended up in San Miguel and it just,
Mhm.
it ticked off all your boxes
It did.
and it was very similar to what you were used to, not too large of a city, like Querétaro would be too big for you maybe.
Yeah, I think it would. I visited Querétaro and I like it because I like that it's close enough that if I need to go and shop and get things I can't get here, it's right there. I like how modern and clean Querétaro is. But yeah, this was more our size. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So, so anyway, should I go ahead and tell my,
Yeah.
yeah,
So for any of you guys that are just now joining us, my guest today is Karrol, as you see on the screen right there. Just go ahead and ignore everything that's going on the back on the ticker. I'm going to mention that at the end of this live stream. But yeah, my guest today is Karrol, and she moved from Colorado to San Miguel de Allende. And once in San Miguel de Allende, or once in Mexico, she discovered that she had breast cancer. So go ahead and Karrol, you go ahead and tell your story.
sure. So we had just closed on our house, and I was here overseeing some renovations that we're having done. And I found a lump in the middle of the night. And I had already decided, when I lived in the US, I had already told my husband years ago that if I were ever to get cancer, because I know a lot of people get it now, that I would want to have my treatments in Mexico. And I will explain to you why. So it happened to be that I was already here. So I am a person who has always cared for myself using alternative treatments and have cared for my family. My family kind of considers me the family healer. So if they have something wrong, they come to me, and I have done a lot of study just on my own. I'm not a doctor, but I just do a lot of home remedy type of things. So I started looking around once I found the lump. Well, first I got my diagnosis.
Mhm.
And so I contacted a doctor in Querétaro, and it was a gynecologist who had a specialization in breast pathology. So I thought that was a really good person to go to. And she's probably about your age, and maybe younger. I mean, everyone looks like a baby to me now. You know, I couldn't believe how young she was. She came in and I thought she was a patient because she was also expecting. And she goes, "Okay, I can see you now." And I went, "Oh, you're the doctor?" But she was great. And she was very compassionate and very caring. And she examined me and said, "Yes, you need to go and get," she was very calm and said, "Now this could be nothing." And I said, "I understand." She said, "But we need to get you a mammogram and an ultrasound." And so she wrote me a prescription, and I went over to actually Hospital Mac at the time because I didn't know, where else to. My driver actually told me about Hospital Mac, and she actually took me to Hospital Mac and helped me make the appointment, which was so nice of her.
Mhm.
And so I went there and I had my ultrasound and the nicest mammogram I've ever had. The most gentle, non-painful at all. I couldn't believe her skill. I was so impressed.
You had had a mammogram before?
Yeah, one, and it was so painful. I have what they call dense breasts, and about
Okay,
40% of women have dense breasts. And so mammograms aren't very good for screening for dense breasts.
I see.
So
There's too
after
much tissue and
there is, and after that extremely painful situation where they at first scared me and thought I had something going on, and I was only, my 30s. And then they said, no, there's nothing. It's really hard to tell with your breasts. I decided, and mammograms create radiation. I mean, they give you radiation. And also it's good for people to know that really any studies they've done with mammograms, they haven't really stopped, slowed down the death rate or anything of women with cancer.
sure.
Because by the time you can find a tumor on a mammogram, it's pretty good size. It's,
Oh,
it's a centimeter or so. So, but what matters more is the treatment after that. So, I went ahead and had one though, because they needed it for diagnosis. And then I had an ultrasound the same day by a doctor there, not just a technician, but a doctor actually did my ultrasound at Hospital Mac. And they then sent me back to have a biopsy with the doctor that I went to, brought in another doctor an oncologist, I think he was, who actually did the biopsy.
Mhm.
And it was shown that I had an aggressive form of cancer, a grade 3 cancer.
Mhm.
And I was, of course, kind of frozen. I was very scared at first. And then I thought, wait, I know that this can be, and even the doctor said, look, we can cure this if you move quickly. And I thought, and she was actually more of a conventional doctor. Her route was radiation and chemotherapy or surgery. And I decided to go a different route. And I knew that from the research I had done in the past, that Mexico tends to be much more open about alternative treatments.
Definitely.
And so one of the treatments I was looking at was what they call cryoablation. And that is, they've been using cryoablation for things like skin cancers and other uterine cancers and things like that for years and years. But the treatment for breast cancer is relatively new.
Mm.
And so I decided that, and they've been having a lot of good results in places like Israel and Japan and China. And because in the best case scenario, what cryoablation does is it will stimulate your immune system, because often our bodies don't know we have cancer, and so it allows the cancer to grow, because cancer has all these little mechanisms it uses to hide. And so in many cases it will, not everyone, but it will actually tell your body, hey, you need to take care of this if there's any cancer cells left in your body. So
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, it is.
So it's not just like targeting a specific area, but can also actually stop something that may not be detected yet.
Yes, it can actually trigger your immune system to fight what cancer cells floating around in your bloodstream, anything left in the site. And they said in 50% of the cases in the study that I read, people become immune from cancer after that, which I think is incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
Now 50% is pretty good, really.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
Yes.
What exactly is cryoablation for anybody who is wondering what exactly is that?
So what they do is they take it's a needle that they go in through the skin into the tumor. So the tumor's like this, and the needle goes all the way through like this, and then it forms an ice ball around the tumor at 200 degrees centigrade. Minus 200, minus 200 degrees centigrade, very cold. And they do a freeze thaw cycle. So they usually do it from 8 to 10 minutes. And so I found a clinic in Tijuana, the immunotherapy center. Not only did they have cryoablation, but because I interviewed several different clinics, and they all seemed really good. But this one, they said they could do it within a week. Once I made my decision that I wanted to go that route, and that I was a candidate. But they also
So
offered
there's a
these.
screening process even of,
There is, of
yeah, because
course,
they have to make sure that their therapies are going to actually be effective for you.
exactly. And so the tumors, not every tumor qualifies, depends on the size, where it's located. If it's too close to the skin, it can become necrotic. So I knew, because I'd looked at my mammogram, because of, the hospitals, unlike in the US, they sent me all my records right away. So I had everything,
Mm.
which was so refreshing. And if you have a question, you talk right to the doctor. I'd never experienced that either. I was like,
Yeah.
this is great.
Crazy,
So,
especially with something like a diagnosis that you've just received
yes.
and you're scared and you don't know what's going to happen
Mhm.
and you can't even talk to your medical
Yes.
professional. So
My
yeah, that's
doctors
great.
were very available, very available. It was really nice. So once I made the decision to go to Tijuana, to the center, and as I was saying earlier, the other reasons, they had all the different treatments that I had researched and knew they were effective for killing cancer and building the immune system. Because it's very important to build your immune system when you have cancer, not
Mhm.
destroy it. So I went to Tijuana. In fact, they got me in. I said, well, how much notice do I need to give you? And they said, we can get you in 48 hours. That's all
Wow.
you need to give us. So I gave them a week, and my husband and I flew to Tijuana, and they made all the arrangements to have us picked up, to go to they arranged my hotel. Because, when you get a diagnosis like this, and anyone out there who has had a diagnosis like this knows that you go through a period of many times where everything overwhelms you. You're just so focused on coping with this situation. And so it was so nice that they arranged our hotel, picked us up, took us to the hotel, picked us up every day if we wanted to. We decided to walk to the clinic because it was only 15 minutes, because, exercise is good for you. But
Yeah.
they were totally willing to pick us up every day, or make sure that the shuttle at the hotel brings us to the clinic. They fed me so one of the first things they did is when I went in is they did a nutrition evaluation with me.
Hmm.
And unlike in the US, where they don't address nutrition with cancer, the doctors actually a lot of times tell you you can eat whatever you want,
Mhm.
you know. But they take a different approach at these clinics, and they told me we were going to put you on a sugar-free diet, which I already knew. I'd already taken myself off sugar because I know sugar feeds cancer.
It's super important. Yeah.
Yes, very important. And they gave me fresh juices every day that they made. And they also it was a gluten-free, dairy-free, very high quality fruits, vegetables, and meats, fish twice a week. I think they fed us, and chicken and turkey. So they didn't have us on red meat. They just had us on, white meats and no pork. And the meals were amazing. They're magicians because with what because there was no sugar in anything, and they are very careful with all the ingredients. I was so impressed with the quality of the food. It was
With the
unlike
taste of it,
oh
removing all
yes,
the things that make it delicious. Yeah. And
every
it still
day.
was very palatable.
Yeah, every day I looked forward to finding out what we were going to have. And what a different experience from any of the times I've stayed in a hospital in the US where they feed you a lot of prepackaged foods. These
Yeah.
were absolutely fresh. And it was very morale boosting to be taken care of like that, because the staff there, I wasn't just a number. If I came in and said, "Oh, just give me, I'm not very hungry." Why, Carol? Why aren't you hungry? We need to know, are you okay?
Mm.
This is the dietetic staff that
Yeah.
serve you in the kitchen, are monitoring you and making sure you're all right.
Like a
Are you
friend.
like a friend? Yes. And we got to know a couple of the people that worked, the dietitians and the people that worked in the kitchen, and I just have such great memories. And so then the next step is they do an intake, and they do an evaluation, and they take all your records, of course, and then they create a program that's just for you. And so I did things like high dose vitamin C, because they know through IV therapy, that was one of the first things I started to do, with also multivitamin packs, because high dose vitamin C works a couple of different ways. It is cytotoxic to cancer cells, so it kills cancer cells. It builds your immune system. It it causes your body to produce more collagen, which makes the cancer cells more sticky. So they want to
Oh,
kind of stick together and they can't divide and spread around so much. So that's
okay.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's and they know this, of course. They've looked at all the studies, and I also did with hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments because cancer doesn't like it. It survives in an anaerobic environment, so they want to make sure they flood your body with oxygen, and I did that twice a week. And they also did hypothermia, which means they put you in have you ever seen those funny little saunas where your head's just sticking out and your body's inside?
Sure.
You
Like a
know,
cryotherapy chamber.
yes,
Okay.
although this is heat.
Okay.
And yeah, and I actually, they used to use these in the 50s for weight loss. My grandmother had one in her garage.
Oh, that's
So when,
funny.
so when I saw it, I immediately thought of that. I went, oh, how funny. But what
Because
they're
it makes
doing,
you sweat.
yeah, they're mainly, it makes you sweat, and that helps detoxification, but it also brings your body temperature up so it's mimicking your body responding to an invader. And
Oh,
so
okay.
cancer doesn't like that heat. And so
Yeah.
because often our bodies aren't responding to the cancer, they're just letting it grow, they start helping your body stimulate it. They kind of stimulate it artificially. And so not only did I have whole body hypothermia a couple of times a week, they did heat where they use what they call a mag ray lamp that was directed at the tumor sites.
Mm-hmm.
And they put me on, like what are those the heat mats, they're, oh, I can't think of the name of them.
Like a blanket?
Biomat, like a biomat.
Okay. Okay.
They put you on those also. So they give you a lot of heat treatments because that helps kill the cancer cells and it doesn't hurt you. And they
Yeah.
did a thing called dynamic therapy where they gave me what they call a porphyrin. I took it orally, and then after 15 minutes, they would take an ultrasound, and it would pull the porphyrin what I took was zinc and chlorophyll bound, and so it would pull it into the cancer site, the tumor sites,
Mm.
and help to destroy the cancer cells. And so they were going about this very many different ways. I mean, I could go on for another
How
half
long
an
ago?
hour.
Sorry. How long
That's
ago was
okay.
this?
This was 3 months ago.
Okay. And how long did the treatment take from when you checked yourself in to all these treatments being done?
Okay, so it took 3 weeks. That's their general treatment time is 21 days minimum. And for mine, because I was stage 2, that was a good jumping off point for me. And so a little more than 2 weeks into it, they did my cryoablation therapy where they froze I ended up having a 2 centimeter tumor in my breast and an 8 millimeter tumor in my lymph node. And
Oh,
so they checked my heart and everything, they were very careful and very conservative. And I was the first patient at this clinic to have this procedure. So even though the specialist they brought in, which is called an interventionist radiologist, he's very experienced at it. He trained in not only Mexico, but Cuba, and very highly skilled. They brought him in. He was the one that did my ultrasounds and said, yes, she's a great candidate. I agree. She's good for this. They were very careful, and all the doctors attended my my procedure because they wanted to see how it went and what it was like. And there's no pain. That's one of the hallmarks of cryoablation is because it's freezing.
uh-huh.
But yet my doctor, Dr. Batista, who runs the clinic, he's the director, he's very conservative, and he wanted to make sure I had no pain. He wasn't going to just take their word for it. He wanted to make sure. So I stayed the night in a
Okay.
very nice hospital room, and they monitored me. I was fine. I had no pain. It was great. And it took about an hour to 2 hours, I think, for the procedure. I spent the night, and then I went back and started the very next day, started my treatments up again because, there may also be other cancer cells floating around in my body. And they want to make sure that even though they put a 1 centimeter envelope around your tumor sites, they want to make sure they get everything, but the treatments also, you just want to continue changing the terrain of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand. If you want to be successful healing yourself from something like cancer and many other diseases also, you need to change how you're doing things. And so this clinic totally understood that, totally supported that. And so after a few more days of treatments, and then they send you home with a home protocol. They did one more blood test on me, and I will say this: my blood values were, for the general blood values were really good, except for my white count was low. That's what was the indicator in my
Yeah,
blood.
just like an indication of you fighting off a disease.
Right, but in just 3 weeks, they took my white hemoglobin count from 93 to 98.
Okay.
And that's really good. That's really good. That put me in the range where I needed to be to even have the treatment.
Without any sort of like, donors or other
No,
like, yeah.
no, just good nutrition, relaxation techniques, and all of the treatments that I received. I also received things like, after the cryoablation, they gave me IVs of glutathione, which is a very powerful antioxidant to help me detox, because they
Okay.
gave me general anesthesia. Normally, cryoablation in other places is done under general, but I think because I had two tumors and the length of it, they didn't want me to have to lay there awake for 2 hours, which was really very kind of them. I
Yeah.
didn't want to lay there awake for
You
two
just
hours
went
while
to,
they were.
yeah, right. You'd be
Yeah.
nervous the whole time.
Exactly. And they also they did some chelation therapy. So often, those of us who are older, especially, have things like lead in our systems because, a lot of times one of the contributors to cancer is heavy metal toxicity. And
Mhm.
so, to be safe, they gave me several chelation treatments after my a procedure, because that also helped my body detox the anesthesia, but it also was for lead. Dr. Batista explained to me it was for lead, and
Interesting.
explained why. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So then they sent me home with a protocol of supplements that I take. And they also gave me B17, which is something that they don't do in the U.S., which is Laetrile, which has been proven for years and years to help kill cancer cells. So they gave me all the different protocols to do at home. They encouraged me to do many of the therapies, like I have a heat mat at home, and I use that. And I've continued my therapies. I've just finished the 3-month protocol that they gave me, and I'm getting ready to get my scans done. But I feel very much like, we need to listen to our bodies. And if I don't even say to people that I have cancer now, I just say I was diagnosed, because I don't feel like I have it anymore. I feel very good.
Yeah,
And
you were talking about that. You have like a burst of energy and
I,
and you
yeah.
feel better now than you did
Oh,
before you
yes.
even knew you had cancer.
Yeah, well, I knew too when I came to Mexico. Um, I knew my health was kind of sliding. I wasn't exercising enough, and really, I wasn't getting enough sunlight.
Mm.
And because winters in Colorado can be harsh, and we'd had a harsh winter, and we'd had those wildfires. So in the summer, it was hard to even be outside because there was smoke. I live up against the foothills, and there was smoke all the time. So I think my health suffered from that, because we were evacuated from our home once, and
Wow.
we had to get air purifiers and put them in our home and keep our windows closed. Yeah,
It was
so
very close to your house.
it was. We were
Okay. So many
yeah.
stressors going on there. Just,
Oh, that was very stressful.
am I going to lose my house? What's going to happen?
Yeah, we could see in the hotel we were staying in, we could see the fire on the ridge above our home. We could see the
Wow.
fire from our
Oh my
home.
God, it's so
Yes,
scary. I'm
it
sorry.
is. It is. And so I just knew when I came to Mexico, I thought, I'm going to turn things around here. I'm going to walk. And of course, San Miguel is such a walkable town. And I was out in the sunshine every day. And even before I got my diagnosis, I was already turning my health around. I'd already lost 20 pounds. My energy was better. And my stress level had dropped tremendously. So even though I was frightened at first, I got over that, and I knew that I have control over my own health. And
Yeah.
so and I have to say that instead of I told my doctor wanted to know, the gynecologist I went to, she goes, where did you go for treatment? And I explained it to her, and she was so supportive. She goes, oh, that's great. I wish you the best. Instead of, giving me a hard time about it,
Yeah.
which would have happened in the US.
Very
The
likely.
doc,
Yeah.
yeah, oh no, it would have. There are very few doctors that are um, educated or understand this alternative. Because it's based on the metabolic theory, which was discovered by Dr. Otto Warburg, who was a Nobel Prize winning scientist 100 years ago. So they've had this information. And so luckily there are doctors out there who know this. They follow the research. And there's a whole community of healthcare providers who understand that cancer is a metabolic disease, and it has many different causes, but they know that addressing it metabolically, you can overcome it.
Now, I remember when we first talked, you told me that you chose this because of a very high success rate. Would you mind sharing some of those numbers with
Oh,
people?
sure. You mean the clinic I went to?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then also cryoablation, because I think you were considering other treatments at the beginning. I mean, even other alternative, maybe not the traditional sense of chemotherapy or radiation, or even having a mastectomy done or anything like that.
Well, I
But
actually considered all that.
yeah,
I realized that, when that's what I pictured. Is this what I'm going to have to do? Because I just became so frightened, and my brain kind of froze up, and I forgot all the stuff I knew about alternative care.
yeah,
But as soon as I remembered, I relaxed and I remembered, I started thinking about, do I really want surgery? Do I really want chemo? I know what chemo does to you. I know what radiation does to you. Do I want that quality of life? And I thought, no, I really don't. And so I decided that's when I started. I actually didn't even know about cryoablation at this point. I knew about the other alternative treatments, but when I was going back and researching where to go, I found out about cryoablation and its success rate. And so I thought, I just knew that was for me. And I had a strong feeling I was a good candidate from what I was reading and the videos I had seen. And so I went that route. Yeah.
yeah. How did you feel while you were in the hospital? And we're going to get to some of your questions, so feel free to post some questions here for Karrol, you guys, because I want her to help you guys understand, right, her experience at least. Again, we're not doctors; we're just sharing her
No.
experience, and we really encourage you, right, to do what's right for you and your health.
Yes.
But hopefully, this gives you an avenue to which consider, right, and that's
Yes.
the goal here. But how did you feel while you were in the hospital? Like, could you give us an idea? Did you feel nauseated?
Sure.
Did this treatment give you any sort of side effects? Any of that?
Certainly. And so you did ask me a question earlier that I will answer, that one of the reasons I chose the clinic I went to is because the majority of the people that go there are stage 4,
That's right.
they go after they've had the traditional treatments and they've stopped working or they didn't work for them. And so then they've decided, I've exhausted all my options. I might as well try this. What do I have to lose?
Sure.
And they have about a 60 to 70% success rate with stage 4. So I thought, well, I've got a really good chance. And so how did I feel? Well, aside from the fact that I love my nurses, they were so nice, and I felt so taken care of and reassured. The only thing I felt was tired. And they told me when I came in, they said, look, you're going to burn about 500 calories a day. Just the treatments burn of 500 calories. Your body's going to be working really hard. And I thought, because the number of calories, they wanted me to eat about 1,700 calories a day just in 2 meals. And I said, that's too much for me. They go, no, you're going to need it.
Yeah.
And they were right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was tired. But that's it. I didn't have any nausea. I didn't have any, I had no actual side effects except for fatigue. And so I would go back to my hotel and just rest. And, during the treatments, they're not strenuous or anything. So no, there really weren't. In fact, at one point I was like, well, this is just kind of too easy. Aren't I supposed to suffer?
Sure, because that's what we think about, right? When
We
we think of
do.
chemotherapy, I've seen it with family members, and
Yes.
it's really hard to see them go through it. It almost it kind of kills you before it brings you back to life. And for some people, it's really, really it really, really affects them harder than other people. So that's what we think about. We just think about
Yes.
having these terrible headaches and basically dropping all this weight because you're again, it's meant to kind of
Mhm.
kill you from the inside out.
It
um,
is. And I will tell you, they do some chemotherapy, just so people know, and they do some radiotherapy at the clinic, but it's more like a low dose. So instead of flooding your body, it's very targeted and it's much lower dose because they're doing it also with the alternative therapies. So people, even if they say they have it very aggressive and they need to try to get it under control, because sometimes people do use it if they just can't get it under, it's like putting out a fire.
yeah,
And so they do it, though it's very targeted. So if someone has side effects, they're very minimal compared to, like, I knew a woman there who was having treatment for colorectal cancer, and they gave her some very low dose chemo. And all I saw her go through is a mild nausea. That's it.
yeah, that's
And
great.
yeah, and she came there for the same reason, because she did not want to destroy her immune system. She
Oh, wonder
wanted, yeah.
she was from out of
Yeah,
state too.
yeah. Actually, she was from New York, and she was of Polish descent and had immigrated to New York City, and found the clinic and was there getting treatment.
Oh, how what a
Yeah,
small world, right? Yeah, just like
yeah.
foreigners coming and flooding certain areas, especially
Mhm.
when certain hospitals and treatment centers give you maybe a chance at something that might not be available to you in your home country.
Yes, or much more, because insurance doesn't cover. I mean, it doesn't even cover cryoablation unless you're in a study, and there's lots of hoops you have to jump through. And I wouldn't have qualified for the study because I had two tumors.
Ah, okay.
And there were some other reasons. And the
Okay.
type of cancer I was diagnosed with, they weren't allowing that in the study. So I would have had to pay for that out of pocket, and in the US. And it would have been, I don't even know how much, because, we're usually talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for cancer treatments.
Yeah.
And instead of the very much more modest cost. I mean, to some people, it may sound like a lot, but when you're fighting something like what I was doing, I knew that, there are chemotherapies that are $100,000, just for a treatment.
Sure, yeah, paying out
Yeah.
of pocket in the United
Mhm.
States
Yeah.
for any sort of why don't we cover that? Because I'm sure a lot of people one of the biggest questions we get is, what happens if I live in Mexico? I have pre-existing conditions, I can't get private health insurance. What happens if I have to pay out of pocket? So why
Mhm.
don't we cover some of the costs that you had to cover because you didn't have private health insurance at this time?
No, I didn't. I looked into it, and I realized, because I understood about the pre-existing conditions, and what I found, you had to wait 6 months. And I went, well, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not waiting
Yeah,
6 months.
sure.
And so, but what reassured me was when I went to get my tests. Well, and the other thing I had done also, and I mentioned this to you, is I had a root canal removed
That's
here in
right.
San Miguel, a very difficult root canal by a
Okay.
very skilled oral surgeon, who I didn't even know it was difficult while he was doing it. And until he got done, he said that was hard. And I know I have these long curving roots, and I said, I couldn't tell, and it healed beautifully.
Okay, that's
It was
great.
it was actually a better experience than I'd had in the US having a root canal removed, because I
Yeah, those
had
can be
another
painful
degree.
for sure.
Yes. And that was $120. I was like,
Wow.
what? I couldn't believe it, versus
Yeah.
over a
That's
thousand
without insurance. That's out of pocket.
out of pocket,
Yeah.
right? And I had my CT scan and my blood tests and my cardiogram, when I was diagnosed, and my visit and with my biopsy and with the doctor and my initial visit, and it was all under $1,000.
Wow.
I was just floored. I
Yeah.
was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. For a
And
lot of people who have like these crazy, catastrophic plans, I mean, that's basically what you have to pay out of pocket until you meet your deductible anyway. So,
my deductible's 10 grand in the US.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yes, I have to pay 10. Yes, yes, it is crazy.
Which you could easily meet once, you go into therapy for something like this, which is very necessary for a lot of people, I'm trying to say. But, for a lot of people maybe living in Canada who have a long wait time to even if you have free healthcare, I don't know what the wait times are for cancer, but for something else, just having that availability and the flexibility to be seen, like they told you, we can get you in the next 48 hours.
Yes.
That's huge.
And even when I was doing my mammogram and my biopsy, everything, it was very quick. They got me in very fast for my CT scan, everything. I had my results for my CT scan in a few days, sent right to me, not to my doctor where I had to make another appointment and go back in.
Yeah.
Yes. And so so I had all my records. I'd never experienced this where I had all my records I could take with me. I didn't have to beg for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or go to like the admin office and be like, this is really me.
Yes, exactly. They sent them right to me in a digital form. And so it was very convenient for me to send them to the clinic in Tijuana. I'd like to say something about that too, I was in Tijuana when that whole cartel thing happened that blew up in the news.
Right.
We didn't even know. So from on the outside, when they were looking at that, we didn't even know what was going on. It was just things were kind of quiet. And then we were told, you need to be careful walking. We don't want you to walk. We want to take you back to your hotel. But it was a 1 day, from what we could tell, it was a 1 day event.
Right.
So it was, I just want people to know it was a very different on the inside than what was my friends were contacting me going, oh my gosh,
are you okay?
Are you safe? Is everything okay? I'm like,
right.
Why? What's going on? And then we started looking at the news and we went, oh no, we didn't even know that was happening.
Yeah, the media tends to sensationalize things. What she's referring to is about 4 months ago, there was some blockades and cartels were setting cars on fire because they caught the leader of a cartel and they were lashing out on the government. So the media made it seem like Tijuana was basically like under siege and nobody was allowed to leave their homes. And while it was probably a scary thing to watch on the news, what Karrol's referring to is if you were in Tijuana at that time, which she was, you wouldn't even know what was going on.
No, some people we knew heard some sirens in the night, but actually everything was really calm and quiet. In fact, we were kind of going, where is everybody? Because people did stay home because they didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure.
But, we have things in the US all the time that happen, like the school shootings. And I don't know why, if it happens in Mexico, it's so much worse for some reason when something happens. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really quite understand. I feel very safe here. So
that's good. I'm glad. San Miguel is certainly there's a lot of vetted interest in making sure that San Miguel remains very safe. So you have no issue there.
Well, there are risks everywhere you go.
Of course, yes.
In the world. I don't know of any place that, and sometimes if you go toward the safety above all, you lose a lot of freedom in life. And so there's a balance to be struck there.
Yeah,
there's a balance.
This is true. For a lot of people, they're thinking like, I'm sure I'm going to get the question. I don't know. You guys go ahead and ask, but you mentioned having some lab work done, your initial tests, and it being very affordable compared to the United States. We're going to compare the United States a lot because a lot of people here are watching from the US. But in the US, normally, even if you have insurance, you still have to pay for some things out of pocket.
Mhm.
especially if you're maybe buying insurance on your own, if you're self-employed, if you don't have a group coverage, where you're paying a minimum amount and then the company's covering the rest. A lot of those insurance policies tend to have a really high deductible, like $10,000 is what you're talking
Mhm.
about, which is crazy. Um, but what were your actual costs for this treatment since you had to pay out of pocket? If you don't mind sharing
Oh,
just an
not at
average
all.
estimate of that,
Well, not at all, because they can contact any of the clinics and find out for themselves. And they tell you upfront.
which
So
is
that's one
great, isn't
thing I
it?
want to stress. Yes, everywhere I went, I knew exactly what I was going to pay. No one said to me, well, waffle, waffle, we don't
We'll
know.
find out when you get a bill in the mail.
Yes, instead, I knew I could budget for it because I knew what I was going to spend. And so the 3 week treatment that I had in Tijuana was $27,000. And to give you an idea, there were a lot of actually Mennonites. I don't know if you're familiar with what Mennonites are like. They live kind of more naturally on the land, and it's a religious group, and they tend to be farmers, and
It's like
there were
the
a lot of
Amish.
like the Amish, right? And there was a lot of them there, which really surprised me. And we got to talking to them, and they were from the U.S., different parts of the Midwest in the U.S. And they said, yes, we come here because, of course, they're all tight knit and they know the therapies work. And they said, if there's a place in Arizona that does a very similar thing, and it's $100,000 for 3 weeks.
Wow.
That would have been out of my
Very
realm. That would have been
Yeah.
out of my realm. I would
Yeah.
have been like, well, I guess I'll be doing it at home and the best I can if I'm going to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now my cryoablation was separate from that. So everything I told you about was covered except for the cryoablation. They have some special therapies that are, most of them run between 15 and 103,000, the extra therapies. But mine was, of course, what I was having done was more pricey. So it was about another 27,000 to have that done.
Got it.
And, I decided that instead of just trying to shrink the tumors, which I now realize I probably could have done very easily, I wanted to just, because it was such an aggressive cancer, I wanted to get rid of them so that I could give my body time to build up and to kill any other cancer cells that were in my body. I'm glad I
Yeah.
did it. It gave me a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have the resources and you're able to, why not give your body the best chance?
Yes, exactly.
And
Exactly.
I get it. A lot of people might not have those resources,
Yeah.
which is why we think, it's also important to, if you do have pre-existing conditions, to probably
Mhm.
still have something, a policy in the United States, if you're over the age of 65, Medicare,
Mhm.
something that gives you some peace of mind that you can go back and get treated if in case you got something that was cost prohibitive to you in Mexico because you couldn't pay for it out of pocket.
Right. And I don't have Medicare yet. I'm not old enough yet. So,
Yeah, you're great. You're young and beautiful and wonderful.
well, I
And
got about 4 more years. So,
and you'll apply for it then. Yeah.
exactly.
So what's the next step? Like, do they give you a plan like 6 months out? You're about to get your 3 month scans, and then what happens?
And so then based on my 3 month scans, if I show that I am uh, what they call free of disease or no evidence of disease, that's usually the terms they use, then I will just continue, I will continue more of a maintenance program. And if still have some cancer, like if they find any other, metastases, which I don't think they're going to, because I know these things work
They
and they work
won't.
consistently.
They will
Right.
not.
Yeah, they will not. I don't really think they will. Then I will just continue to work on what I'm doing now and to continue to shrink. Because I also use something called and intermittent fasting, which is very effective. Dr. Thomas Seyfried from Boston College in Boston has been doing all this research on using fasting and intermittent fasting with some of these, what they call them Scott inhibitors. And that's the natural things like garlic and, the things that we know that block the cancer's ability to draw nutrients and build membranes.
Oh,
And
that's
they've been there. There's tremendous success here with this. And so it fits right hand in glove with the treatments I had in Mexico, because, you know, a lot of the foods they were giving me and encouraging me to have, and the juices and everything, you know, with the different vitamins. But it's things like, you know, um, like I said, garlic and green tea. And these things all help block cancer from receiving nutrients. And then when you intermittent fast, which I mean, that means, and some people do long, prolonged fasting. It depends on your level of cancer that you have. It starves the cancer. And so intermittent fasting may mean that, like for me, right now I'm eating in a 4-hour window, and I fast the rest of the time because I'm making sure, but they know this works. And I've dropped weight, and I'm finally at a healthy weight again, because I was
yeah.
overweight.
Intermittent
Yeah.
fasting has so many benefits outside of,
Oh, yes.
being
Weight
not
loss.
only restorative for your body. I think your body
Yeah,
really does need
autophagy.
time to digest, right? And you're still
Yeah.
eating the same amount of calories that you would.
Oh, pretty much. But for me, I was eating less because extra weight does raise your cancer risk. And I knew I needed to lose some weight. And so I probably have lost another 10 or 12 pounds intermittent fasting. And it stimulated the autophagy in my body, which, as you know, means self-eating. And that means that my body, if it doesn't have the extra calories, it also eats the fat, but it eats up all the damaged cells in your body. That's one of the reasons fasting is so beneficial.
Did they tell you
And it's
anything about?
free.
Yeah, and you
It's
feel
free.
good, and you feel good.
I do. Oh, yes. Your
Yeah,
energy levels, your mental clarity. Oh, it's just great. And
yeah,
there's lots of information out there about intermittent fasting for anybody.
there is. Good
Yeah.
sources, also not so legit sources. Find the good
Yes.
sources for sure.
Find a good source. Yes. Yes.
Did they give you any information about any sort of mushrooms or anything like that?
Well, they fed me mushrooms almost every day.
Yeah, mushrooms have
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
I feel like that whole, I think it's called mycology, hasn't really
Mhm.
been researched enough in
Well,
cancer
you know,
and
it actually has been, and the studies are out there, and
mhm.
that's why they're using them. But the mainstream, conventional, they're geared towards pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the clinic explained, and I already knew the benefits of mushrooms, and so I was very gratified to see that they practiced what they preached. They make a delicious mushroom soup there. Oh, it's so good. And they have, if people are vegetarians, they have that option. So many times they were served portobello mushrooms or mushrooms in place of the animal protein. And so, no, we had mushrooms almost every day.
That's so
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
it is.
I know about this because, like I mentioned, I have family members. It's very prevalent in my family.
Oh,
So I know a lot about, treatments that they're all fine, by the way. They're all
oh,
cancer
good. I was
free.
going to ask
Yes.
you, how are they doing? Yeah.
Yeah, they're all cancer free. They all live in Mexico too.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
so
wonderful to hear.
yeah, so they've
Yes.
all gotten some form of alternative therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some have gone radiation and some
Mm-hmm.
have gone through chemotherapy in the traditional sense. But yeah, I can't stress enough that sometimes opening and widening your horizons
Yeah.
gives you a lot of treatments that you didn't even have an idea you had access to.
Exactly. And if someone decides to go the more conventional route, actually using these therapies, of course, they need to talk to their doctors about it. And if their doctors don't understand, they can actually direct them to the information, or they could go to what we call an integrative oncologist who understands using alternative therapies along with conventional therapies. Because, like, for instance, I told you this story when we talked earlier, and I will tell it. When I first got my cancer, I got my diagnosis. I decided to right away do some high drip vitamin C therapy before I even went to the clinic.
Yeah.
And so there's a mobile IV service here. And I called them and said, I have been diagnosed with cancer and I would like to have high dose vitamin C therapy. So they sent a nurse out, and this is owned by a doctor here in San Miguel. And he FaceTimed with me, they did my blood pressure and all that to make sure I was okay. And I told him why I was having it. He said, Karrol, that's magnificent. I was just like, wow, this is great to hear this, that he's actually,
Yeah.
he said, I have other cancer patients that are doing this, and anyone having chemotherapy that has high dose vitamin C reduces their symptoms by 50%.
Wow.
So they respond 50% better, less nausea, less all of the other side effects that come with chemotherapy by doing high dose vitamin C. And there
Yeah.
are other treatments out there that a good resource, especially because I've had breast cancer. I'm going to direct people more toward this, but I'm sure there are other, cancer is cancer,
Mm-hmm.
really. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a website called Breast Cancer Conqueror, and and there is another one, Dr. Nasha Winters. They can research that, and they talk about how they educate on all the integrative therapies you can use to help if you're decided to go the traditional route to help mitigate like radiation. Like for instance, after you've had a mammogram or anything like that, you should go home and have some miso soup. It
Oh,
helps. And
interesting.
there are vitamins like curcumin and things that help reduce. You can take it before and take it after your treatments or during. Talk to your doctor about that to see exactly, but they mitigate the side effects
Just super
a lot.
anti-inflammatory foods and
Yes,
filled with antioxidants. Yeah.
yes, exactly. There's lots of things out there you can use to help soften the blow of your conventional treatments if you've decided to go that route.
Yeah, the world is filled, I feel, with hidden secrets of
Mm-hmm.
medicine, and we have to empower ourselves to
Yes,
find out what those are, and also research, right, the resources to find out
yes,
what those are.
yeah,
Um,
because I
would you
think
mind sharing the name of the clinic that you went to in
oh
Tijuana?
yes, it was the Immunotherapy Center. And it's run by Dr. Batista. So you have the right one. There's another one there called I think it's called the Immunotherapy Clinic or something that have a similar name. And but if you see that it's the director's Dr. Batista, you have the right clinic.
And it's a Batista or
Yeah.
BAU?
No, it's how you spelled it the first time.
Okay.
Batista.
I'm
Yes.
putting it in the comments for everybody.
Okay.
So that way you guys can look it up. The Immunotherapy Center in Tijuana, run by Dr. Batista.
Mm-hmm.
Look it up and see if this is something that you or maybe a family member or friend needs to look into further. I think Karrol, you are an inspiration, and you're
Thanks.
not the only one. Like there's so
No.
many people like this that are sharing, right, and they're speaking up
Yes.
and they're saying like, you guys, there's other treatments available to you.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's part of what gave me that strength, helped me the strength. I kept looking at all these success stories, and I thought if they can do it, I can do it. Especially people who are much worse off than I was,
yeah,
who had stage 4, and their doctors were like, "Well, there's nothing we can do for you," and they
yeah,
came
make
back,
preparations.
and
And
they've come
it's
back
like
from it. Yes.
you hit a dead end. It's not a happy news to receive. It's not a happy ending.
No, and
Um,
by actually taking control of your own health, you aren't just passively going, hey, just please fix me. You are taking a role in your health, and that helps you so much mentally because you feel powerful. Instead
yeah,
of feeling helpless, I feel tremendously powerful because I've done this. And that's such a good feeling.
I love that. I think that's very, very important for
Hmm.
everybody, not only for
Yes,
cancer, for
for
anything.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ask questions, get a second opinion, really
yes.
find out what's available to you,
And
right?
don't give up hope because
Yeah,
we're surrounded on our planet with things that they've been using for thousands and thousands, maybe longer, of
yeah,
years to heal. And a lot of things we've moved away from because they can't be patented.
yeah, because there's
But
big
they're out,
money and big pharma.
yes. So
Yeah,
they'll make it something that's the molecular structure is very close, but not quite that because they can patent it.
right.
So there are all these things, you think about it in a plant that there's things they don't even know are in there yet. They haven't, our science is still very, very young, even though it may seem advanced. There are many things, many mysteries, like you were saying, within the natural world that they don't even understand yet. They don't even understand why some things even work on us the way they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially for future generations, right? And hopefully,
Yes.
right, like more and more people um, take an interest into researching this and to finding alternative solutions to not only cancer, but many things out there that
Yes.
don't have to be chronic diseases.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, because they also treat Lyme disease. I want to mention that at the clinic,
Oh,
which
really?
is very
Okay.
prevalent in the US. There's
Yes,
a lot of
yeah.
people with Lyme disease, and
All over
they
the
treat
world.
other autoimmune diseases
Okay.
also, not just cancer.
Which makes sense from their name, Immunotherapy Center.
They even help long haul COVID.
Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And there's a lot of people suffering from that right now. Um,
And there's a
Especially if
face.
they already had, an immunocompromised system.
Yes.
So,
And there's a Facebook group. I can't remember the name, but if you look up, like cancer groups or something, that actually do tours. They take people to Tijuana, and as a group, and they'll take you on a tour of. I just found this out recently. In
oh
fact, they want me
really?
to do a review of the clinic for them, which I'm going to do. And they take you around to the different clinics, so you can actually hear the presentation and decide for yourself which which clinic you'd like to use.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
such a good idea. Because
It
sometimes
is.
you're like, there's
It's
only
fun.
so much research you can do online, right? You want to
Yes.
also meet with the doctor and
Mhm.
see, like, do they seem credible?
Yes, I thought that was great that they're doing that, and so you can if you look that up on Facebook, you'll find it easily.
Okay, okay. So many people. I want to give you some of the comments that you're getting
Okay,
here because I
sure.
think it's awesome that some people are like, "Oh, this is so inspiring. Such a beautiful story. Gives hope to people with cancer. We have a couple in our family going through invasive treatments." Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with a little heart. um, and so just I'm sure everybody else watching here, some people haven't chimed in, but and for people who will watch later,
Mhm.
so much great information and education for all of us. Thank you so much. I agree, Karrol. You're so well spoken and also good at explaining things. So I really thank you for taking this time. What a beautiful lady and super interesting chat. Yes, I agree. Isn't she beautiful? And you look radiant and you look good. When I think of somebody who just may have finished with a treatment that's kind of
Mhm.
invasive, they go through a period of
Yeah.
regeneration, and in that period it's like they look sick, but you look wonderful.
I feel
And
younger than I did when I came to Mexico last April.
that's
I feel
amazing.
better than I have felt in,
We might all need to go to this center just to
well, they do have that.
proactively.
They do have that too. Actually, while my husband was there, it's good you bring that up because they have like a booster if you want to just support your immune system. So my husband did a week of certain therapies while he was there just because he's older. He's 7 years older than I am too. He's almost 70. And so, he'll die he's 68. So I say you're almost 70. He goes, don't say that.
Yeah,
And
don't
of
add
course,
2 years to him.
he didn't have anything serious, or anything wrong with him, but he went ahead and just did some IVs and did some of the treatments there. Just because, why not, for his health?
Yeah, how did he feel?
He felt good. It also made him kind of tired. At the end of he'd be like, wow, I feel kind of wiped out. We'd go back to the hotel room and just veg,
Yeah.
but later, I think it gave him peace of mind that he was giving his body some regeneration. And he uses fasting also
Oh, that's
to
good.
help regenerate himself, yes.
That's
Because
good.
he was kind of a wild guy when he was young. And when
Yeah.
Dr. Batista said to him, oh, your liver looks really good, he goes, really?
He's like, because I drank a lot, so it
He
shouldn't
did,
look
and
that great.
Dr. Batista goes, you have good genes,
That's
So,
good. And
yeah,
also maybe he takes care of himself now to where it's
he
gotten a
does.
chance
He
to.
does, because I nag him and I make him.
Yeah.
He
There's
credits me for that all the time. He goes, thank you for, showing me the way to take care of myself.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I
Yeah.
bet you're
So,
so inspiring to your children too.
I think so. I don't know. They haven't said, but they did say when I got my diagnosis, well, if anyone can figure out how to take care of this, mom can. And that was quite a compliment to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah, we're not going through the terrible stress that many families go through, things have been very normal in many ways. Of course, it has changed my life, of course. I'm not going to downplay that. But um, just there's this sense of calm and peace that I'm handling it. They're supportive of me. They don't give me a hard time to say, oh, that's not going to work. They're just very supportive because they know, because my family and my boys they're readers and thinkers, and they understand the importance of nutrition and using these supportive things. So I haven't had anybody really push back, and I've avoided going anywhere, talking to anyone that would push back.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to hear that.
Avoid that like the plague.
Yes, or I ignore it.
Yeah.
So if someone were to make a comment and say, "Oh, this is silly,"
Well, I'm never calling you again. Yeah, there's
exactly.
no point.
No, I just go to those who, the doctors that I've built my team are people that I know are going to be supportive, no matter what no matter whether they're conventional or alternative or a mix.
Absolutely. Stress is such a huge causer of so many problems.
Yes.
It all starts with stressors, right? So if you change your environment, I mean, I can tell you a story. For example, my dad, he suffers from such usually, right? And maybe he doesn't know that I'm sharing this, but sorry, Dad, if you're watching this. I should have said somebody else, but oh well, I'm too deep in now.
It's too late.
But he suffers from very high anxiety because he's just a perfectionist, and he suffers from it at such a high level that he can give himself basically a heart attack. And he just was at one point in his 40s, he changed his environment, the things that stressed him out so much, his job, his environment in general, possibly maybe even friendships. He changed all of that. Now he hasn't had a single episode. He's perfectly healthy.
That's wonderful.
He looks better than he did when he was, 40. He works hard and everything, but he's just managing your stress is so important.
It is, and he took back his power because health is not a passive thing.
Yeah.
It's an active thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Definitely.
And many people who are diagnosed with a life-threatening illness, we have to make the decisions that we want to live. And that there aren't any hidden secondary gains under there, like, oh, I'm going to get a lot of attention if I stay ill. We need to also really look inside ourselves and ferret out anything that may hold us back from our healing. That's so important that we're honest with ourselves and that we just make the decision toward life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end this. It's very empowering, and I hope it helps everyone that's watching. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching the replay.
That's why I'm doing this, because Mariana, I was pretty sure you would give me this platform because I want people to know that you don't have to be afraid. That you can heal yourself.
I 100% agree. I've seen it, and I 100% agree. So thank you so much, Karrol, for sharing so much. And everyone agrees. Yeah, so true. Everything that you're saying, absolutely. I know that next week I think it's a perfect time to remember what we're all thankful for, right? Next week is Thanksgiving if you're in the United States. I know Canada celebrates it at a different time, but it's a great time, even if you're not living in Mexico. Even if you're not in the United States, you're somewhere else in the world. If you're currently in Mexico, I think it's a great holiday. I think it's a great time to remember things that we're thankful for. So I hope that you take that time to remember, because it can be so easy to be bogged down by what's going on in the media, everything that's going on that's wrong, right? It's easy to get bogged down by the things that you can't control. So just be thankful for the things that you can. I am super thankful for all of you. I'm thankful that I get to do something that I love, that's very fulfilling, that I get emails all the time from people being like, I got my residency today, thank you. Or, I was able to find a rental because of you, thank you. So it's very fulfilling to get those emails. If you haven't sent me one, send me one, because it fills my heart with so much happiness. But yeah, I'm thankful for being able to be connected with all of you and helping you in your journey to living in Mexico. With that being said, if you might see a banner that's going on at the bottom, I do have a Black Friday special coming up for the complete Mexico relocation guide. Sorry to like change it 180, but I do want to give you guys an opportunity to get that if you haven't bought it yet. So the way you're going to find out about it is if you join my newsletter, which I'm putting in the comments down below. So join it now and you'll get an email in a couple of days letting you know the details of that. So Karrol, thank you again.
You're so welcome.
Yeah.
And gratitude is also very important in healing, everyone. So yeah,
Yes.
take the time to be grateful for what you have.
100%.
That was such a good message, Mariana.
Yes, yes, it's 100%. It's very, very healing. So, well, thank you guys all for being here. I will let you know when our next live stream is. We're going to take next week off. Well, we're not taking the whole week off, but we're taking next Thursday off to be able to be with our families and also just, practice what we preach. So I'll let you guys know soon when our next live stream is. And muchas gracias. Hasta luego, everybody.